Hello, my name is Devin Diazoni, and this is not really film literate. We haven't quite decided yet. I'm here with my brother,
Hello.
Derrick
I'm waving
Diazoni.
because this is not just a podcast, but also a video, I hope, I guess.
Yes, yeah. So I was on my way home from work today, and I'd actually weirdly been thinking last year we did an Oscars episode of Film Literate, and
Mhm.
that was a lot of fun. The people who listened to it really enjoyed it, I think, and then no one has bothered listening to it since because it's no longer relevant, like once the Oscars happen. Um,
Right.
Actually, every so often I'll find that someone's downloaded it, and I'm like, "What are you
Uh,
doing?" I
yeah.
guess we're just like working through the entire show, but like we know how that one went.
So in that vein, I had the brilliant idea of creating another episode of sorts that would also be irrelevant in about 48 hours.
Well, we'll get a little into the Oscars, which are sneaking up on us so quickly that it'll be irrelevant in like a week and a half, also,
Right. I
because
know it's
that's
so soon, actually.
yeah. I mean, it's so
Like,
late into the year, but the SAG Awards are have been delayed because of the fires in Southern California. So like
mhm.
everything is now smushed together to celebrate what I think was a pretty weak year in film.
I hear other people say that too. I think maybe that's not totally true in the sense of like there's no clear front runner and there's no clear like Oppenheimer of the year to some people anyway. I don't think that means it's weak. I just think maybe that means there's a lot of great movies and none of them are like rising above the pack. I don't know.
You're okay, you're right, and I'm being dismissive. I have quite a few like five-star masterpieces on my list. The thing is, none of them were nominated for Best Picture, so I'm bitter.
Right,
Um,
right.
in
Well,
fact,
we should
until I
say
watched The Wild Robot, none of my top like seven movies of the year were nominated for a single Academy Award. It was wild.
yeah. Well, we should say by way of introducing ourselves since and you were about to explain, I think, and I interrupted you, that I just randomly had this idea today. I mean, we've been workshopping it for a while, but I was like, let's stop workshopping it and let's just like record our conversation that we're inevitably gonna have before the SAG Awards. And let's just like upload it to YouTube and TikTok because I don't know about you, but like so normally, well, okay, normally I like watch politics stuff all the time, but it's a little hard to watch lately. So I switched over to prediction experts and Oscar videos and, reactions to announcements of awards and just all that content. And there's so much of it. And I'm like, I want to play. Me and my brother should play. We'd be good at playing. And well, one reason we'd be good at playing is because I should say, full disclosure, we're both SAG actors and voters.
Hmm.
But I did look up the rules, and we're not supposed to talk about what we voted for, but we can talk about the award season in general and our thoughts on movies and stuff like so.
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've largely forgotten what I voted for already, and I voted yesterday.
Right?
Um,
Yeah.
but no, yeah,
But
we
we'll just
yeah,
talk about what we thought of the season and stuff anyway.
that's a good idea. But in the interest of full disclosure, we're not kidding. Like Derek said, he wants to play. We have actually been playing this game privately for 20 plus years, I think. Like we got really
Right.
into it. It's weird. I honed in. I was thinking about this just today, actually, and I won't go on a long tangent about it, but my interests today are so aligned with what they were when I was a 12-year-old boy that I was like, do I need to revisit this? Do I need to expand my horizons in some way? But the thing is, I fell in love with baseball around 2002, 2003, and
Uh-huh.
that's the year 2003, 2004 when The Lord of the Rings Return of the King won. And I got to thinking not just about the Oscars as this thing I was always aware of and interested in and enjoyed watching, but as this political machine that kind of has nothing to do or very little to do with the actual movie itself at times, because Return of the King, while great,
Right. Mhm.
is the capstone. It's like the we're awarding all three movies at once, which is something that we're
Mhm.
maybe going to talk about with Wicked here, something that we've been seeing
Yeah.
time and time again fail to be repeated in history because nothing has been as like enduring and everlasting and like perfectly contained as the first three Lord of the Rings movies. Like every sequel
Mhm.
takes, Avatar to Avatar 2 takes over a decade. And but Wicked's gonna kind of do the Lord of the Rings thing right now.
Right. Well, it's funny you actually compare the talk about the politics of it because you're right, it is politics. And in a way, I never really thought of it this way before, but like maybe this was like my entryway into actual politics, being interested in awards shows and stuff. Because I mean, there's so many similarities. They campaign like you do in politics, and you try and convince people to vote for you, but you have to do it in a way where you don't seem like you're just all about me, 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 vote for me. It has to be about the people and their experience of it, and art, which it is, but it's also about politics. So, but you're right, we've been doing like our own version of being obsessed with awards and stuff since we were kids. But it's funny, and like, our interests, like we have a lot of overlapping interests, and I think the Oscars and awards is one of them. And like you have this amazing podcast, the Film Literate podcast. I don't have any sort of podcast, but like I've been a guest on Film Literate a few times, which was awesome. But like, I, full disclosure, am not really a reader, except for like On the Beach about like Nine Perfect Strangers or The Woman in Cabin 12's Window or
But
whatever the
let's
hell.
not pretend a
I
part
don't
of your political junkie life doesn't include lots of reading. You just read things that are, you know, real or hopefully real or preferably not
True. But I
misinformation. You
guess
do a
I've
lot
sort
of,
of,
yeah.
that's fair, but I've given up on reading a lot of primary sources, and I just trust the talking heads of MSNBC and stuff to like fill me in. But I think everyone's becoming less literate, but that's a whole other conversation. But anyway, my point is, I we should tell our audience, such as it is, that I sort of had this idea that I'm like, well, you know, I like film literate is your thing. I don't necessarily have an idea for my own podcast right now, but like maybe this could be like the inaugural episode of something, just us shooting the shit and talking about what we always talk about, which is like awards and a little bit of politics. And I don't know. So I was like, maybe this would be the first episode of, I don't know, what should we even call it if we had our own podcast? Something about brothers. I was like floating things like, I don't know, the Brothers Guild, or like, what did I say? The
You had a
Foreground.
good one. I liked the foreground, but
Yeah. Because we
for
used to be
people
background
who,
actors. Well, I
yeah,
still
for
do
people
it
who aren't in
sometimes.
the know, you have to like kind of introduce the idea of like
Yes.
why it's the foreground now because we're always in the background. Um,
Yeah. But yeah, we're both working SAG actors, or I don't know when the last time you've done it, but we've both been in SAG for like over 10 years, 12 years, I want to say, each of
yeah,
us.
I looked up to 2013 for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I joined. We can just say because people might watch this video one day if we do maintain this to any extent, and
Mhm.
this will be like the really rough. Oh my God, I can't
Yeah.
believe how shoddily this production was done and thrown together. Like
Yeah.
literally, we thought about doing this and
A
decided
few
to do it
hours
a few
ago.
hours ago.
Yeah.
Like, um,
Well, because I feel like so maybe it's just about turning 40, or I don't know what it is in my life, but I'm like, I feel like I let what do I want to say? I let the perfect be the enemy of the good in a lot of things. And I just like don't ever do it. So I'm like, oh, we could keep talking about maybe doing something together forever, or I could be like, Devin, what are you doing right now? Let's get on Zoom and do a podcasty thing.
the first time I
So,
ever recorded an episode of my podcast, it was about Susan Orlean's The Library Book. I was solo. It was 20
uh,
minutes long, and I recorded it like 9 times in my closet. And
oh, I
then
remember
I
that. Yeah.
I realized at a certain point, I just have
Mhm.
to stop, shut up, be
Yeah.
myself, and don't. I can't be precious about something because this isn't a movie. This is a conversation about movies. Not even, it's a conversation
Right.
about the awards for
Yeah.
movies. So
I don't know how many years ago that was when you started doing it, but since podcasts have become even more and more prevalent, at least in my world, like the podcasts I listen to, like they're churning them out even faster now. It's like trying to almost be as like real time as like some cable news shows and stuff. It's like something happens in the news, and a couple hours later, there's a podcast about it, like a 15-minute one, but like it's becoming like a thing where you can't be precious about it. You've got to get the content out
because we want people to think that you and I have organized, orderly conversations that last a finite amount of time rather than you and I
there.
have kind of just been talking for 35 plus years. Um, I will just say one last thing about film literate that's evolving into what you're talking about, trying to be more timely and on top of things, is that in 2024, I did a few episodes with Paolo Zavala on Disclaimer, a very little seen show, but nominated here at the SAG Awards, actually, in television, which we probably won't talk a lot about. But those episodes, despite being this little watch show on Apple TV Plus, got the most hits of anything last year, except for maybe one other episode, The Starless Sea
Okay.
with one episode of The Starless Sea with Eva McKitten. But I was just like, wow, something about doing what's happening right now has people's interest like crazy. And so I've shifted in
Hmm.
2025. I'm trying to do a lot about what's like read the book before a movie comes out next month
Yeah, yeah,
and then covering the movie as like I'm about to drop hopefully a Monkey episode and Monkey came out
right.
today. So the Monkey.
Right, which is really smart. And that reminds me, we're supposed to do well, we were supposed to do a Color Purple episode when that movie came out. I guess we let that slip. But we're supposed to do Wicked, and we still have time because Wicked Part Two still is coming.
We're planning Wicked Part Two, or we're planning Wicked by Gregory Maguire for this year because we have
Hmm.
one movie. It's the 25th anniversary of the novel. No, sorry, the
Hmm.
30th anniversary of the novel, the 25th anniversary of the Broadway show. And I'd like to hit
Hmm.
those things to give me any sense of structure. But The Color
Hmm.
Purple, the film, actually turns 40 this year. So we could do that.
We could still do it. True, true, true.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that all said, we should probably do, speaking of trying to be timely and stuff, and then we've just like bantered forever. We should do that thing where you like allow people to advance in the video to like go to whatever timestamp where we start actually talking about the SAG Awards, because I don't know how many listeners or viewers we already lost. But we should talk about the SAG Awards because, and the reason I wanted to do this is because I was like, I feel like that's kind of one of the things that was missing in the like Oscars chattery, YouTube space was like actual voters. So I looked it up and I was like, wait, is there like a rule against actual voters talking about it? Because everyone's always trying to like guess, like what would the Writers Guild vote for here, and what would the Producers Guild vote for here, what would SAG vote for here, and like I know. Like, I, not only because of what I might vote for, but like I hear what people are talking about. And I'm like, I think we're allowed to talk about it. So let's talk about it.
What is the name of the app you turned me on to this year
Ooh,
about
the awards
predictions?
expert. Yeah. The
Okay,
awards
yeah.
expert by they go by the Oscar expert and Brother Bro. I forget their real names. One of them is Cole. But
Wait,
anyway, that
hey,
also
hey,
kind of,
no, 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 no. We're brothers. They have to get off our corner. Guys,
yeah,
move out. We have brothers right here,
I
you
think
and
we were
me.
brothers first. And to be fair, I literally thought about that when I was like, oh, is there room for like is there like something to me and my brother doing a podcasty thing together? I'm like, well, they have a really successful one. I'm like, are we stealing their idea? I'm like, well, no, we were brothers first. They just monetized it first and made it
And
into a
it's
thing.
different demographics. You've already committed our fan base to being only people who pay attention to MSNBC. So
True.
everyone else, shut it right off. They said, no, thank
So
you.
props to the Oscar expert and Brother Bro who created the actual app. It's a really cool app where you can like do your predictions for all the different guilds and stuff, and then like once they're announced, both for nominees and for winners, and then once they're announced, like it shows you the leaderboard of who got the most right, which is really cool functionality.
Yeah, I am. As people who listen to Film Literate probably know, had a daughter with my wife 3.5 months ago. So
A good person to have a daughter with.
thank you. Yes. Sorry. Um, so I definitely, just for me, no one else should have a daughter with my wife. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I definitely am much more on top of the Oscar race in other years between not seeing a lot of movies in time for the nominations and not having interest in some, but mostly just being way too busy and tired. I got creamed by you in the predictions of the nominations this year, including like one of the
Nice.
major eight categories where I think I got 2 of 5 because I tried to be bold slash
Right.
I was ignorant. But
All I credit that to is listening or watching way too many of these sort of videos and content to just literally hear what the chatter is.
no, there's no such thing as too many, Derek. People keep watching, keep listening. Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but so let's the SAG
Let's talk about it.
Awards, which is one of the things we're always wondering. Are the Oscars, Oscars so white, are they ever going to lose relevance? They're the oldest major film award given. Obviously, they're approaching 100 years, I think in 2028. And
The SAG Awards?
no, the Oscars.
Oh yeah, the
And
Oscars.
so
I was
like,
gonna say.
but like when they went Oscars so white and all these different controversies and like Weinstein ran them for so long and then Weinstein turned out to be this monster and everyone actually knew it and it was all weird. There's always like a question and like the Globes had their whole scandal and like the SAG Awards are young enough and actor driven enough who all have publicists and are concerned with image and always have been to an extent that like can they step into the second most important film awards category. Like, probably not because there's nothing technical there,
Hmm.
except for we have one thing on everyone else. And let's start the conversation here. We
Hmm.
have a stunt category, which
Mm,
the
sure.
Oscars don't yet have.
Yeah, what's that about?
Apparently it takes time, and they're gonna do what are they gonna do? Best casting
They're gonna
is
add casting next
coming.
time, which is weird because it's like it's not ensemble and it's not best film, it's just casting. Like I'm not like I approve of it, like because casting directors do deserve recognition.
Hmm.
But I don't know, I feel like there should also be an ensemble award, which there is at SAG, which is cool.
Yeah, it's our version of Best Picture. That's right.
Yeah.
Remember a few years ago when the Oscars were like, "Oh man, no one's watching our show. Our telecast numbers are like the lowest we've ever been. Let's add a most popular film category." And everyone said, "Shut the fuck up. Go away
Yeah.
now." We're like, "Okay, yeah." They backed off.
That's when they
Um,
went to 10, right? To 10 nominees,
it was they went to
sort of.
10 and they went like to up to 10, but it was always
Oh yeah,
9
that
and they
was
went
weird.
back to
Like
10.
8 or
Yeah.
9. Yeah.
Yeah, the SAG Awards
Yeah.
do it right,
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
including I'm looking right here at the list. We're not going to talk TV really. Um and we're not supposed to talk about our own votes. Let's just
We
say
can
I
talk
was a
about what we hear people talking
right,
about or what we think
including
should happen.
each
Yeah.
other.
Yes.
Um, but let me just say, like, if you're looking at the TV nominations, if it says Ripley or Shogun, that's probably where my heart is. And let's talk about stunt though. Stunt
Yeah.
ensemble, they have it in television too, but in a motion picture. Outstanding action performance by a stunt ensemble in a motion picture is the name of the category. And this was Deadpool and Wolverine against Dune Part 2, against The Fall Guy, against Gladiator 2, against Wicked.
And this is where if we had a big budget, we would put them all on the screen, be
Hmm.
all snazzy.
Oh, it's not
But
even
we
the
just
budget, it's just time.
time, yeah.
It's just we're gonna
But
drop this tomorrow morning. So
first thing I want to say is I think it's really cool that Wicked got in here, even though a lot of
mhm.
people are saying like, wait, what are the stunts? Are they calling dancers stunts? Which I don't think they should. Like in SAG as a guild, that's a very different thing. So it shouldn't be, but I mean, there's no rule that people have to like vote according to exactly what a stunt is. But Cynthia did her own stunt famously by flying and singing at the same time. So I'm almost like, should we just give her like a special stunt award for that? Because otherwise, if you vote for Wicked here, are you voting like basically to give it to Cynthia? Does Cynthia even count as part of the stunt ensemble? I actually don't know.
That's a good question because like she's not, I mean, is she credited as a stunt performer with everyone else? Would she be included in the list? I don't know either, but I guess it's
Hmm.
like it's a stunt coordinator, and so she worked with that person, I believe.
Yeah,
So yeah,
but the award goes to, I don't know, does it go to everyone in the ensemble or just to the
I
coordinator?
think it goes to the coordinator, and they probably shout out like all their top people. Um,
Yeah.
and by the way, I am actually a huge stunt fan. We went to like a stunt show at Universal Studios Park or whatever it's called when I was a kid, and like it was like a
Mhm.
Western show where guys got shot and like fell off the things, and like at a certain point I was a little climby daredevil as a kid, and I kind of wanted to be a stuntman. I think it's a little past my time, but I was watching Godless with Charlotte the other night, my wife, and like someone gets shot. It's a Western shot off of a roof, and I just like in the middle of it, it's like a random no-name character, and I'm just like, yeah, look at that, he really did it. Like I don't know who it is, but I love
Yeah.
and appreciate stunt work, and so I actually saw I saw four of these films. I have not seen Gladiator 2. Yes, I do
Mm.
vote without having all of the information sometimes, especially when I have an infant daughter at home.
That's another thing we should say. I wonder how many people realize it who are just trying to like, predict what the different guilds are going to do. There's no rule that says you have to see everything before you vote. Obviously, we want to be conscientious and try to see them all and, just to give everything a fair chance. But the reality is that's not going to happen. Like, it's impossible to ask everyone who votes to like absolutely see every minute of everything. Like we try to. I try to. I have all the screeners in the app, like, and I've been sort of slowly trying to like work through them.
The
But
brutalist. Sorry, sorry.
yeah, it is hard to get yourself to. And we should say things like that. We should say people have been, talking about like, is everyone really going to sit down and watch all 3.5 hours of The Brutalist? And I can say, no, they are not.
I can say too that currently a 2 hour movie in my household with feeds and diaper changes takes about 3.5 hours, so I
Mhm.
can't even
Mhm.
compute what. a
Yeah,
film with an actual built-in intermission would be for me.
yeah,
Maybe I'll see it one day. I don't need to get into the anti-pro Zionist aspect of it or the AI. Or I didn't get around to it. Um,
yeah. But
but
back to stunts.
yeah, back to
So
stunts.
I
Which
think
have you
the
seen here?
so I I actually think I've only seen Wicked,
You didn't see Dune Part
but
2? I thought you saw Dune Part.
no,
Oh no,
I know I
you haven't
didn't.
jumped on the Dune
I haven't
sandworm
seen
yet.
Dune Part One. I know. I'm not nothing against it. Like I'm sure I will at some point. I famously do this thing where like I am anti-bandwagon in most cases, but then eventually when the bandwagon is over, I go back and watch it and I'm like, oh, that's what the bandwagon was about. Okay, I get it. Anyway, but for the stunts award, I'll just say the consensus is that Fall Guys should win because it's actually about stunt performers. And I'm gonna predict that that does win.
I think that's a great prediction, and
Yeah,
as far as I know, everyone's voting for it.
yeah,
But I don't know who all everyone is. So I'm actually on the SAG. Uh, s- Sorry. Okay, we should say a few things. SAG means Screen Actors Guild. AFTRA stands for something to do with radio, so it's actually SAG after the unions
mm,
merged,
mm.
2015, 16, I think. But
American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. But yeah,
we're being honest, if not like a little facetious or whatever, in our like saying, yeah, people don't always watch what they vote for, and that's true. But there's another aspect of the awards that you have partaken in half of once, and that's called
well, no,
the
no, no, no. We should say before you say that, that is very confidential. So I think so.
oh,
Someone we know may have partaken in being on what you're going to talk
and
about.
nominating committee, which is
Yeah.
just a select few members of the guild. I didn't know because I've never been invited, um, which I'm allowed to say because I've never been invited. But
Well, actually, maybe it's only confidential when it's happening. Like,
that was years ago.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely not on this year's nom-com.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't see what would be the problem revealing that you've done it in the past because I think the reason you don't want to reveal it in the now is because then everyone's going to try and come influence you
Right.
to. And also, even if I was on the nom-com this year, that's over. The people who chose all the nominees, so like, you can't bribe me anymore.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's true and fair. Bribes sounds great. We're open to
Yeah,
them, people. No,
we're
but
not the Golden Globes of your okay.
so
We're yeah.
let's talk because there's stunt, there's ensemble, and then there's before acting categories.
Mhm,
They, in my mind, progressively and appropriately have them listed in a way that some people, myself included, can't always be bothered to say female and male actor, making no distinction between the job title of actor because it's non-gendered. Um,
mhm.
Lots of places still like the romance of best actor and actress, but yeah, it's always outstanding performance by a male or female actor in a leading or supporting role. Those are how they're broken down.
It is kind of funny that they're so anal about that with the non-gendered actor and then adding a male or female before it. I mean, that was the more PC thing to do like 10 years ago, but now the more PC thing to do that some places have done is eliminate the gender categories altogether, which I think I can see why that is the right direction, but I don't like that it reduces the number of awards that get given out, at least in some of the bodies. Like I
Mhm.
forget which critics group it is, but they only gave out like one supporting and one lead. And I'm like, well, sometimes it's going to be two men, sometimes it's going to be two women, sometimes it's going to be one and the other, or neither of the none of the above. Like I don't know, but like we've talked about this before too, that there should be a way to divide it and still have the same number of awards, but not have to be all gendered about it. Like what did we say? Like about age maybe was one
Yeah,
idea.
I you always were putting that bug in my ear, and I really
Hmm.
had never actually considered it because I'm a relatively privileged person who doesn't have to. But it got me thinking
Hmm.
about it, which we should all do nowadays. And I did during the COVID lockdown. I started this Facebook page with a couple hundred people called the
Oh
Shelter
yeah.
in Cinema uh,
Hmm.
fan group page, whatever. And then we did the Sickies Award, SIC, and
Hmm.
I just wanted to keep people invested. In, quiet, slow film years. Not a lot was released. A lot of things were pushed, and Yeah, the idea is that every award show wants the most actors at it because they want people to watch because the beautiful people that they have relationships to on screen
Mhm,
are the reason that people care. Like no one except for nerds like me are like Roger Deakins hadn't won an Oscar yet. He'd been nominated 12 times or whatever and then he won like a few in a row and it was great. But like he's a cinematographer and a lot of people who aren't film nerds don't know or probably even care really. And
mhm,
that's fine and fair. Laymen don't have to invest in these things, but we do want people. The Oscars, everyone wants them to watch the award show. And so, yeah, we did lead over 35 years old, 35 or older at the time of the film's release, and lead under, and then supporting over that age and lead under.
mhm.
Like maybe it was 40 years old, whatever it was. Because in my
But
mind,
combining all the genders, yeah.
yeah, like you said, age has more to do, I think, with what you bring to the table as a performer
Mhm,
possibly not to diminish young or child actors even, and they're all good and professional and talented and capable, but
mhm,
I think you can bring a lot more if you've lived a little longer, and those are the people like it would become the supporting lead thing of, well, Denzel's won an Oscar, but it was supporting in glory. He's a leading man, he's a movie
mhm.
star. Training Day, second Oscar, leading actor. And so it'd become
I
the
get,
new thing of like, oh, I won when I was 36 or whatever. Or like,
yeah.
you
I guess there's a version of that right now. It's I think it's the BAFTAs that does a breakthrough performance, but they just do the one and it's not supporting or lead, it's just like a breakthrough like in your first film role. Maybe that there's an idea there that's already sort of working some places. Maybe there's also like a budget thing you could do, like, best actor in a movie with a budget over 10 million or something, and then
well, that's
under
interesting. Yeah.
instead of dividing it by gender. But anyway, it's still divided by gender, and especially with the backlash of that our country is going through right now, maybe it's going to stay gendered for a while.
At
So
least a
this
couple
is
of
this
years.
is the awards we have.
There are two genders again in this country, people, and
Yeah,
only two. But there are lead and supporting performances. So
yeah.
let's talk first about
Oh, and there's a
supporting.
trans person in one of them. We should just say there is a
Yes,
trans
there is,
person,
and
a
that
trans
has
woman,
become a big old mess.
yeah, who's representing her community very well. We hate to
uh,
say it because it's like, I mean, we have to at least touch on it for a second, which is
yeah.
to say that like it's so unfortunate that like anyone who's like a first, like even I was watching this the other day, Hattie McDaniel, when she was the first African American woman to win an Oscar, had said, and it was so sincere for her at the time. She said, I hope I'm a credit to my race. Like she always wants to be a credit to her race, which is like a real feeling she had. But it's like unfortunate that she felt she had to do that because it's like whatever you see on the screen, it's like, oh, that's what all black people are like. Or you know what I mean? So like
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
would be the
Absolutely. It's
way people think. So now with the first trans woman nominated, it's like you don't want to put extra pressure on her, but there just is, and she failed.
if you want a great deal concentrated about race and gender in awards and not really the trans community quite yet, but just take a break from this or when it's over, go watch Chris Rock's monologue in the white jacket during the Oscar
Mm,
So White um season
I remember that.
because
Yeah.
he does 10 perfect minutes. It's probably his like 10 best stand-up minutes ever, and he talks about a lot of these issues, and obviously it's an ongoing battle and struggle. But yes,
He's great.
Carla Sofia
No
Gascon,
one should have ever slapped him.
no one ever should have slapped Chris Rock. Chris Rock should get two slaps back now. No, I don't believe in
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
let's okay. Outstanding
Okay.
performance by a male actor in a supporting role. Do you have this
Okay.
in front
Want
of
to
you, or
say
do you
the
want me to
nominees?
read the nominees?
Go ahead and read it. I don't have it in front of me. I think
Um,
I know it, but go ahead and read
we've
it.
got alphabetized Jonathan Bailey in Wicked. They also credit the character names Fiero he plays,
Hmm.
Yura Borisov as Igor in Anora, Kieran Culkin as Benji Kaplan in A Real Pain, Edward Norton as Pete Seeger, good performance, in a complete, that's not a hint on who I voted for, in A Complete Unknown. He was kind of my favorite thing, one of my favorite things about a movie that I wasn't crazy about. And Jeremy Strong as Roy Cohn in The Apprentice. So you have two
So
of the Roy boys from Succession right there
I
going head
know
to
that's
head.
fun. And we should also say one interesting thing about the SAG Awards, of course, is that it combines TV. So people like Kieran Culkin, Jeremy Strong, and Jonathan Bailey also are also beloved from TV.
Hmm.
So it's the same body voting for both the nominations and the win. So I think that helps any beloved TV actors, first of all. And I did want to say something about consensus before we talk about, well, because the consensus, of course, is that Kieran Culkin's going to sweep the season. He has so far, no one has
Hmm.
defeated him. And so I was about to say, I think that Kieran Culkin will win because that's the consensus. But I also think that, like, especially with SAG, and maybe this is just me in my own head, and you can say if you agree or not, but like when there seems to be emerging a consensus, in the same way that I'm anti-bandwagon, I don't want to go with the consensus. You know what I mean? I want to be like, okay, like this person's winning a lot. That's enough now. Let's give it to someone else. Like it's boring when it's the same person the whole season. And especially if you feel like there's other deserving people, it's like, were you that much better than everyone that you need to win 7 awards for your role?
Hmm.
So I think it's happened a few times before, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happened more often going forward, that SAG does its own thing and maybe goes against the consensus, even if they know, even if we know that that person's probably not going to win the Oscar, and almost maybe because they might not win the Oscar, we're like, well, this person's probably going to win, so let me actually vote for my real favorite. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so if enough people think like that, if enough people think, well, that person's obviously going to win, let me vote for my actual favorite, then maybe the actual favorite could actually emerge. And maybe that's what's happened, and maybe that's what will happen. And maybe that's what's going to breed some surprises at the SAG Awards where you see the consensus sort of get interrupted.
So are you going to stand by the consensus pick though of Kieran Culkin will win here?
Well, I think that's the most likely outcome, but that was all to say, don't be surprised if there's one or more surprises. Well, that's what a surprise is. But you know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
expecting at least one, if not two, or even three, maybe all four. I don't know. Like last year, I think all four winners exactly matched the Oscars, right? I want to
That
say,
that sounds right. Unless did Giamatti take it over? No, no, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Murphy kind of ended up sweeping.
So maybe I just contradicted my own thought there, but at least that's how I think about it. If I see that someone's obviously going to win, I'm like, well, they don't need my vote then. I should also say here that usually who I vote for in like most things, that person doesn't win. Whether it's political elections lately or, but no, even for award stuff, like in all the years I voted for SAG, I always vote for my favorite, and my favorites aren't often everyone else's favorites. Like usually the consensus does emerge, and that's why I consider the consensus. But I
Hmm.
don't know. I think especially in the closer ones, so maybe not here. I think Kieran Culkin is enough of consensus and beloved from TV too, like I just said, that he will win. So I don't think this is where the surprise comes. How about you?
It's I agree that he'll take it here. He's getting his flowers. It's the thing that Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul kind of failed to convert out of Breaking Bad, where they'd won
Mm,
so many Emmy awards that we were just and SAG awards and Golden Globes that people were like, okay, well, when this show wraps, the next thing is obviously the leading actor and supporting actor of major films. And like they both had a
mhm,
few stabs at it, kind of, Cranston more. And I think yeah, he got nominated for Trumbo, one of like the broadest
mm,
performances he's ever given, the
right.
hammiest thing he could do. But but yeah, I think Kieran Culkin, who's been around since basically before he could speak, he was
Right.
Macaulay's kid brother and playing the younger version of him and his cousin Fuller and all those things. Like now that he's proven himself, I want to say, spoiler alert, skip 10 seconds ahead if you haven't watched Succession, the
Mhm,
funeral in the final season
mhm,
where he proved that he's not just this one note, brilliant note, but this fast talking dirtbag. And I went
mhm,
into this movie, I watched A Real Pain and really enjoyed it. I was
mhm,
fully anticipating, and he'd already it was recently I watched it, he's already been sweeping everywhere, and I was fully ready to be cynical about it and be like, oh, he's just doing the same thing. He's
mhm,
he's a motor mouth. He can't not be a motor
mhm.
mouth, but it's a nuanced, layered, different character who's in no way, except for the
Yeah.
fact that he talks really fast and looks like that one handsome dude from Succession, the same
He
as.
looks so similar. Now, see, I was actually just in the comment section on YouTube talking back to someone about this because someone brought that up again. It's like, oh, I think they brought it up about Ariana, actually, not Kieran, but like the same argument is made against both of them, saying like, "Oh, they're just really playing themselves." And I'm like, "Well, A, even if they were, if it's a great performance, why does that matter?" Oh, there's some thumbs up from Zoom.
Did,
Um,
oh, did it read
but
your thumbs
B,
up? That's amazing.
yeah, but B, like unless you're doing like some like transformative like Lincoln kind of Daniel Day-Lewis thing, I'll, almost all actors are bringing a ton of themselves to the role. That's like why they were cast,
Hmm.
because they already have it in them to tap. So like it's just like I don't think it's a lazy and dumb argument.
I will support your argument that it's a lazy and dumb argument by just saying Woody Harrelson, one of the greatest actors we have who ever had, a man who made the leap from television to film, and point to one performance he's given where you don't see Woody. You don't have to
True.
be the chameleon. You don't have to
Bill
do,
Murray is another one like that.
yeah, yeah, brilliant at what he does, and he almost won an Oscar, should have probably won for
Yeah.
playing a slightly sadder version of the guy we've
He's
been
just Bill
watching for
Murray. Yeah.
30, 40 years. Um,
Newsflash, it's actually him. They filmed him doing it.
they
So
paid
it
him
seems
money
like
and he
him.
went to the place.
Yeah. How
And
do I
so
know
we
what to
can.
say? They wrote it down in the script.
Have you seen the
To
Ian
Ian, to
McKellen
Ian, to
on?
Ian.
Yes.
Wizard, you shall not pass. To Ian, to Ian.
You're confused.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's one thing I just realized here, and I'm looking at it, and I think yeah, I'm sure you've actually heard this already listening this year to more pundits than I have,
Mhm,
or commentators. Every single one of the main four acting categories for individual performance
mhm.
is 4 of 5 for the Oscars match. There's one dissimilarity in each category. Pamela Anderson in
I
lead
think there's two in supporting actress,
is
or
in,
three.
oh,
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis
and Daniel
and
Deadweiler.
Daniel Detweiler too.
Okay, yeah, so there are two there. Each other one has one though, so there's
Hmm.
no 5 for 5 match with the Oscars. And
Hmm.
another thing people might do
Hmm.
is, and again, maybe you and I don't mean to suggest other people aren't as crazy as we are, but maybe people just like, I like that movie, click the button. I like that movie, click the button. I like that actor, click the button. Oh, she's cute, click the
Hmm.
button. But like
Hmm.
another way to look at it, and I have to believe we're not the only two, is like, was Jamie Lee Curtis, no, she's just one bad example, but like Daniel Deadweiler, who rocks in the piano lesson, and we're about to talk about
Hmm.
this category, she's not going to win an Oscar this year. It is impossible for her to. So while I think, Zoe Saldana's running away with it, Ariana Grande is like a good dark horse contender, can one person say, oh, Daniel Deadweiler deserves some thing this year, some statue to
Right,
commemorate
true.
a great year, a solid performance. She was
Yeah.
also in what's that? Carry On? Yeah, the Netflix movie Carry
Hmm.
On. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
she was
so she
great
was
in
like,
that.
she's here. She's
Yeah.
arrived. This is like her.
Hmm.
I mean, she was in Till, right? But like she's been
Yeah.
around. But this is like the year. It could have been the year we say, remember this name, people.
I forgot if SAG nominated her for Till because she famously was snubbed by the Oscars for both Till
Hmm.
and this. So there could also be people voting to like give her flowers for all the snubs. It's funny because I hear a lot of pundits talk about like, oh, people don't vote thinking as strategically as all that with a bunch of different theories. And I will say that's probably true for most people, but it's definitely not true for everyone. I definitely try and vote strategically sometimes or thinking about weird things. I guess if I had to like explain my thought process, I think my main thought process is just like obviously who is the best, first of all, like
Hmm.
and who's clearly the best. But also there's another part of my brain that's thinking like, that if it's close, like a tiebreaker thing is like, well, but who deserves it more? Like whose body of work and past wins or snubs or recognition or whatever, who's like overdue. I definitely think about people being overdue. I don't
Yeah.
know, what else do you think about when you're voting?
I so I do like to think about where you can award someone who won't get the Oscar if I genuinely
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
the perform. It can't just be I like the actor or something. And Daniel Deadweiler, again, we're not going to say who we voted for,
Hmm.
did make that movie, and it's made by the Washington family, and it's a really impressive film, and I wish more people had spoken about it into the Oscar
Hmm.
season. But I'm more inclined to say this is the clear front runner, and
Hmm.
if I think someone else belongs in the conversation,
Exactly. That me too. Like it's about correcting trying to course correct if I see something else happening that I don't completely agree with. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, they were great, but no, like it's time for me to have my say. I say this person should be more in the conversation. So like,
Right. And
yeah,
so like my
exactly.
favorite film of the year before last, I should say now, 2023, we talked in our Oscars episode, yours, I believe, was Saltburn. Mine was
Hmm.
The Iron Claw. And yet, I cannot argue for posterity's sake that Oppenheimer deserved to win Best Picture. It is the best picture in that grand sense of the word or of the
Hmm.
term of that year. Christopher Nolan was due all those things, but nothing is more boring, which is why I
Hmm.
feel like such a hypocrite because this year's been largely unpredictable and I'm frustrated by it because I don't really care about most of the things nominated, but nothing is, and so I've always wanted this year, but I didn't get it my way, so I'm being a little brat. But nothing is more boring than going into the Oscars night knowing
Yeah,
exactly what's going to win in 3.5 hours.
watching a coronation. Yeah. So I, I wanted, I know we're going very slowly through all the categories, but I did want to maybe take a moment here to talk about the way you brought up Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was clearly the movie of the year. Was that last year? Last year.
It was last
Years
season, so yeah, it was two.
last
Yeah.
season, yeah. Barbie and Oppenheimer, and since Barbie wasn't really taken as seriously for obvious reasons, which I don't think were fair, but obvious reasons, Oppenheimer was the movie of the year. Okay, fine. This year, I think no matter what happens at the Oscars or anywhere, Wicked is clearly the movie of the year. Like, it was the biggest box office movie of all of those. And I hate how it's relegated to the box office, literally the box office award, the Golden Globes,
Hmm.
which is just silly. Because people talk about like all the precursors that things have won, and like Wicked hasn't won Best Picture anywhere. And like, well, it has at the Golden Globes in the category they created so it wouldn't have to compete with the more artsy ones. But I don't know. I just have to take my moment to say it's not really fair that I think it's looked down upon because it's like because it's a blockbuster, because it has dolls made out of it, it has marketed dolls on the market. It's led by two women. One's a woman of color. It's a musical. It's just like not taken as seriously, which I don't think is fair. I've said my piece.
Yeah. So if Anora wins Best Picture at the Oscars this year, it will be the lowest box office for a Best Picture winner in decades.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
like adjusting for inflation and everything, like it's
yeah,
so, but like it's a great movie. But
yeah.
okay, so yeah, let's keep this moving.
So
You're
let's
right.
move. So we got Best Supporting Actor out of the way. Best Supporting Actress, right? Which ties
Uh,
into the Wicked thing.
Outstanding performance by a female actor in a
Sorry.
supporting role.
Yeah.
Thank you. Monica Barbaro playing Joan Baez in A Complete Unknown, who, by the way, Monica Barbaro played with Joan Baez in San Francisco a few weeks ago, and I didn't know until the day after.
That's
I'm not
great.
going anywhere right now anyway. It doesn't matter. But Jamie Lee Curtis played Annette in The Last Showgirl. Danielle Deadweiler played Bernice in The Piano Lesson. Ariana Grande plays the dual roles of Galinda
Yeah.
and Glinda in Wicked. And Zoe
Yeah.
Saldana plays Rita in Amelia Perez.
Yeah. So first of all, I should just say, with the last category too, I 100% think I agree with like everything the non-com did this year. Like I think everyone is super deserving, and I wouldn't be upset with any of anyone winning in any of these categories. Really, I think they're really smart. Like Monica Barbaro really like knocked my socks off as Joan Baez. Like I never, I guess I'd seen her before, but I didn't know I'd seen her before because I
Hmm.
definitely saw Top Gun, but I didn't put that together. Um, Even Jamie Lee Curtis, who like I'm not the hugest fan of, it's like
Yeah,
that was
where'd she come from? Who's that
right.
woman? Wow.
Yeah, a great perform. They are all great performances. And obviously this is in a lot of people's minds. The buzz I'm hearing is well, first of all, I should say the buzz that I hear among all the actors I know is that Ariana Grande deserves an Oscar for Wicked, and she's the front runner. Unfortunately, the industry and all these precursors and stuff have decided it's Zoe's time. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but unfortunately for the Ariana stand,
Hmm.
it's everyone's sort of just decided it's Zoe's turn, and she does deserve a turn. But I think if you base it just on the performance and you don't factor in the other things, which again is fair to do, but if you don't factor in anything but the performance, it's Ariana Grande. But I don't know who I think will win here. Actually, I think Ariana has a chance because we should say there's 160,000 or so voters in SAG,
Mhm.
which is by far the biggest body that's voting. So it's the most populous, and the most populous picks can win. And people say it pejoratively, but like I don't know. I don't think it needs to be a pejorative that SAG votes for the popular things that everyone loves. Like,
I think that Zoe Saldana is one of my favorite movie stars of the last 15, 20 years, whatever it is.
yeah,
Going back further, I've never seen Center Stage, but is that the one she's in, or is it Strictly
yeah,
Ballroom? Yeah,
center
okay,
stage.
yeah. But Ariana Grande, who I was not really familiar with, to be honest. Like, I know the name, of course. I'm a person on the planet who enjoys like media and entertainment. I haven't listened to her
Mhm,
music. I had never seen her acting before. I guess she started as an actor, then became a singer or whatever, and then now it's like her great
mhm,
return to acting. I know, in some to some
mhm,
extent. I think she gives the performance of the year, kind of, in this like scene stealing Kevin Kline in A Fish Called Wanda meets like Jennifer Hudson Dreamgirls almost, even though I know like the song that would be the comparison is Cynthia Erivo's. Like she does it all, she does it amazingly well. She's fully committed to the bit of the character,
yeah,
and every time she's on screen, you cannot not look at there's a green person next to her, and you cannot stop looking at
yeah.
Glinda because she's so damn
She finds the
funny.
comedy in like in just the silences sometimes, and just like the smallest eye movements, or like point of a toe, just like it's really impressive. And like I was here, I should say, I was at the first matinee of Wicked ever pre-Broadway in San Francisco, near where
Mhm.
you are now, where we grew up. Um, so I've been a fan of this IP, as they say, for a long time. And I should also say, I might not be like exactly the average SAG voter, or like the median SAG voter. If you like amalgamated all the SAG people into like one person, like who would that look like? Would it look like me and you? I don't know. It might be, we might be close to it. I don't know, both in age and like, is it a white man? I guess maybe it is. But that all
Are
said,
we white men though, Derek? Really?
well, white passing anyway.
Yeah.
No, but that's all to say that you can't take out of this the fact that a lot of actors love Wicked, and a lot of just people in the world love Ariana Grande. And like I hear a lot of people talking about like, oh, she hasn't like put in her time the way Zoe has, or like this is her first movie, really, her first starring role in a serious motion picture. But it's like I don't know if people necessarily think like that. Like I was saying, if more people think like you and I, which I'm not sure if they do, but if we are like the median thinkers in this, people will vote for who they think deserves it and did the best job before they weigh other factors like who's due. You know what I'm saying?
Here's one more thing I want to say before we move to a different category, and I'm declaring that I think Grande will upset for the first time all season and win. I think
Hmm.
Zoe is right
Yeah,
there with Kieran Culkin as just
yeah.
steamrolling everything. These are the two
Hmm.
most predictable categories it feels. I
Yep.
think kind of because of a little bit about what you're saying, people like Wicked and actors like theater and all those different things. Another thing to consider though is with Lord of the Rings, when The Two Towers got nominated for Best Picture, not even Best Director, even though the director worked on all three films at once and he got nominated bookending it on the other two. It's
Hmm.
like, was 2002 really such a good year that like we had to get Roman Polanski his Oscar and like Peter
Hmm.
Jackson just didn't deserve it? No, because they knew we're going to get Lord of the Rings if they stick the landing on the back end.
Right.
People who know Wicked
Hmm.
know be afraid of part two, or what's it called, for good,
Yeah.
because the quote unquote best songs are in the first one. And
Right.
like so you and I haven't talked about this, and I'm actually working through this theory in real time. Normally
Hmm.
there's a oh, it's a two-parter. We'll get them later. I mean, that
Right.
didn't work out for Dune Part 2, but like normally
Hmm.
there's like the we can do it on the next one, but maybe there's a
Hmm.
thinking too. No one has to end the film singing Defying Gravity in part two. No one
Right.
has to watch Galinda become Glinda, and she's going to have a good arc in the next one. I actually even think you can maybe swap the
Hmm.
categories that they're in for the
Mhm.
sequel if they stick to the stage show, and Grande could be lead and Cynthia could be supporting.
I don't, I don't know though. Yes and no. Like it depends on what they do because they're adding songs, right? Apparently, they're adding a song for both Glinda and Elphaba. I
Hmm.
think Act Two is really Elphaba's arc, and Act One is Glinda. But I don't know. It just depends on what they do. But a couple quick things. One is, uh, I think maybe all we have to go by is what's happened in the past, right? Like when you're predicting awards and stuff. And when it's a trilogy, it makes sense that the middle one kind of gets like a little overlooked and it's like, we'll get you on the final of the trilogy. It's more rare to have a known two-parter only, and that's it. Um, Flash, in some um, pressers or some junkets, Stephen Schwartz said that he is working on like something else. It's not Wicked Part 3, but it's like it's something that he's working on. So who knows? But I'm sure the campaign people want him to keep that quiet because some people think that the fact that they announced that there's going to be a Dune, not part three, but whatever it's called, I forget the name
It's
of,
Dune Messiah is going to be part three.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but because there's that, now that's sort of like any chance Dune had to like come back this season and start winning things just got squashed because it's like you said, oh, we'll get it for the part three. So as long as Wicked keeps it quiet and known that it's just part one and part two, you're right. Maybe people will be like, okay, we'll award part two. But like you said, depends on how much they know. If a lot of people know that Act One is famously way better, and obviously it has Defying Gravity and Popular in it, and Act Two doesn't. Um, anyway, that was a long way of saying I don't think people will be able to get Glinda Ariana on the other one. Like, first of all, it's going to be really rare. I don't know if it's ever happened that someone gets nominated twice in a row for the exact same role, 2 years in a row. Like that, I can't think of that happening. Can
It's
you?
because
Like,
they
it's like
never
no,
even come out back to back years unless you're Lord of the Rings and you made them all at once. You know, it's always like Star Wars had
right.
3 year gaps. And
And that
um,
didn't get any acting noms really, except for like Ian McKellen, right? That was it.
yeah, there was
Yeah.
always a funny story of The Return of the King was nominated for, I believe, 11 and won 11. And Sean
Hmm.
Astin was the supporting actor like favorite. And
Yeah.
the pundit said he's probably not going to be nominated, but if he is nominated, he's 100% going to win, which kind of
Right.
underscores how absurd
Yeah.
the entire
Yeah.
process is because
Right.
everything won. It won in every category. They weren't going to
Yeah.
short him. And it's not a cabal of people in a room talking about we have to give it X, like checking off whatever boxes.
Hmm.
But like, if people had, okay, I really mean to move us forward. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go back to Yura
Yeah.
Borisov. When I watched
Yeah.
Honora,
Uh-huh.
that is such an easy performance for people to miss the brilliance of. Like
Hmm.
he shows up halfway through the movie basically. He's quiet. Like I think people might have even thought when they heard it was being nominated for a supporting actor award that it would be the kid. That it would be
Yeah.
the John, whatever you want to
The,
call him. I forget his name.
the Russian oligarch's kid.
Yeah. But like Yuri Borisov is so quietly like the heart and soul of a film that really commits itself to being about heart
Hmm.
and soul by the end
Hmm.
that he is what like if she's like the flaming brain of the movie, if
Hmm.
she's just like on fire running through it and Mikey Madison's amazing in it, he is this
Hmm.
like steady human grounding force in a film that's like so farcical it almost
Yeah.
despite being filmed with this like, this gritty realism it could kind of like escape reality,
Hmm.
but you have him.
We should say here because we didn't do it before, just to catch up. I think who the runner-up is. So we said Kieran's probably going to win. I would say if people vote with their hearts, maybe Yura is the potential surprise there, but we did say there's probably not a surprise there. Here, if people vote with their hearts, I think it'll be Ariana. Otherwise, Zoe will just keep sweeping.
So you have to
And
commit though, who are you predicting will win?
the SAG are Ariana.
Okay, that's uh, we're agreed on that. I like that. Now this will get kind of. Will this get interesting? Do we want to do male or female actor now?
The same order, so male first.
Okay. Um, Adrian Brody for Laszlo Toth in The Brutalist. Timothy
Hmm.
Chalamet for Bob Dylan for Complete Unknown. Daniel Craig
Hmm.
as William Lee in Queer. Coleman
Hmm.
Domingo as Divine G in Sing Sing, and Ray Fiennes as Lawrence in Conclave. I have not yet seen Queer or The Brutalist.
Yeah, I haven't seen those either, to be fair. I would just say here that, again, if people vote with their heart, I think there'll be a surprise Coleman Domingo win here. I honestly do. Because I don't know how many people think, like, you know, first of all, how many of the 160,000 are aware even of who the consensus is, do you think? You know what I mean? Like, if you think about it, like, the way you think about like elections in America and like the average, the way you win is by going for the like low information voters in the middle, like the low propensity, low information voters. And that's who can tip the scale. So like if you think about it from that perspective, if no one's like, if people are just kind of like living their lives and they're not really aware and they're like, oh, I got to vote, and you go to vote, like, and you're just like, who is the best? I think they'll take Coleman.
Also, in my experience with the nominated performances in this category this year, they wouldn't be wrong.
Mhm.
Coleman Domingo as Divine G and Clarence Macklin snubbed. There's a
Yeah.
world in which we're better prepared for this particular episode, and maybe if we want to do more like an Oscars episode, I've
Mhm.
always wanted to try and shout out the things I like best, and I've been starting to think now it'd be fun to do an alternative awards where nothing that was nominated could be on your list. Like if you were just to make the top
Mhm.
categories
Yeah.
of all the greatest snubs. Like this year, Chris
Yeah.
Hemsworth in Furiosa should be in the
Mhm.
conversation to win an Oscar, but no one saw that movie apparently or liked it, and they're wrong. But this
Yeah.
category, so are you predicting voting with their
I'm not.
hearts?
I don't know if I'm predict. If I want to predict that, I think the safe prediction. See, I don't know. I just talk. I almost talked myself into predicting Coleman. I don't know how much I am. Like I've said before, like I don't know how much the way I think is the way other voters think. If I really think about 160,000 people, I think the most popular actor is Timmy.
Hmm.
But I don't know. Like there, I think I don't think Adrian's in play. First of all, The Brutalist got almost completely snubbed by SAG except for Adrian. I don't think we people need to award Adrian. I don't think a lot of people have seen the whole all 3.5 hours. I think it's Timmy or Coleman. Who do you
As it
predict?
stands right now,
Hmm.
Adrian Brody is, I'd say, the favorite to win the Oscar
Right,
65 to 35 over Timmy, with the
right.
other three all just happy to be there. And
Hmm.
I'm failing to, oh, Sebastian Stan, right, for playing Donald Trump. He's the
Right.
missing link in
Instead
place
of
of
Daniel
Daniel
Craig.
Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think, okay, so here's a part of my brain that can't process these things. Timothy Chalamet will win an Oscar in the next 3 years, and that might be
Hmm.
in 2 weeks. But
Hmm.
I've always bumped pretty hard on actors playing musicians. I don't like most musical biopics or musician biopics.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think it's impressive when they do the singing, sure.
Hmm.
Um, Reese Witherspoon in Walk the Line is maybe the best example of a deserving performance, in my opinion, for playing a famous singer. But
Hmm.
largely, I'm just like, okay, you did a good job. The makeup people were cool. You already kind of looked like whatever. Like I, especially a movie like this, I really don't want my Bob Dylan movie to be this formulaic. And I
Hmm.
guess some people think it's like really bold and like interestingly done and weird. And I'm like, what are we comparing this to? Because it's so paint by numbers, it's obnoxious. And there's no
Yeah.
character there. There's no character to Bob Dylan because Bob Dylan is a liar and we don't know anything about Bob Dylan.
And
And it's,
elusive. Yeah. So,
and so like, is he
yeah.
doing a good job being unknowable, or is it just like he's doing an
Yeah.
impression and it's so I
Yeah,
don't want Timothy Chalamet to be.
there's no scene where it's like, oh, that's where he won the Oscar.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so if people are gonna award him, it's because they like Timothy as an actor, not and because I think it is worth accolades that he learned to play or already did know how to play the guitar and sing. Like I think a lot of people I hate when people discount that, especially for musical performances, where it's like, no, like the fact that they're singing, you're allowed to weigh that in. That's impressive that their voice can do all that. You can give them an acting award for what their voice can do.
Hmm.
That's what
Fair.
acting awards are. Like whether it's singing notes or just like doing a monologue, it's like you can award the singing.
That's fair. I think I mean he gave a film, and again we shouldn't chop it up into like you and I grew up watching the Oscars in the time where they definitely were just going to show you a clip of like 15 to 30 seconds of a performance, and that was like
Hmm.
acting with a capital A, and it was always like
Yeah.
really grabby. I remember in particular Naomi Watts 21 grams. She was like, I'm paralyzed here. Paralyzed. I'm a fucking amputee. And I'm like, oh wow. It's been
Yeah.
that's 2003. That's the year that Sean Penn taught me what good acting was, and I had to unlearn that over years with
Uh-huh.
his performance in Mystic River, which is just too
Right.
much. But I thought that's
My
what good acting
daughter's in
was.
there or
I
something,
was
right?
I
Yeah.
was 14 years old and I was like, "Oh, wow, he's yelling the loudest and crying the most." And like it's more
Right.
than that.
Yeah.
But Timothy Chalamet gave a performance this year in a film that he should be nominated for called Dune Part 2, which also has a
Hmm.
scene where you could point to it and be like, ah, Lisan Al Gaib. He's yelling at everyone, and I get it, and it's
Yeah.
good, and it's anyway. I'm predicting you say no, Brody, you think he's out. You're predicting Chalamet?
I think if I'm forced to choose right now, I'm going to predict Timothy, but I'm glad I went on the record saying watch out for Coleman Domingo here.
I like everything you're saying as far as a prediction goes. I like a shout out to Coleman Domingo most of all. I don't want to say Craig, who I'm sure is great and queer, is undeserving, and
Hmm.
Ray Fiennes is way overdue to win an Oscar. He should have won
Hmm.
10 years ago for the Grand Budapest Hotel. But
Hmm.
I think a lot of people who don't watch everything, including myself, and I did not do this, I won't say who I voted for, but I think a lot of people are just like, wow, Adrian Brody's in a really long movie. And the movie's all about him. Click the button and move on with their lives. I
Well,
think
he's
it's going to
doing
be boring.
capital A acting, like you said. Wait, so who do you predict?
I think Brody's going to win. I think, like,
The SAG.
2 weeks ago, I thought it was an even split, and Chalamet's working harder,
Hmm.
kind of, than
Hmm.
him. But
Hmm.
Adrian Brody has slowly turned this into a steamroll, despite the
Hmm.
fact that there is AI controversy of to get his Hungarian dialect correct, they altered his
Hmm.
performance with his consent. I think Adrian Brody will get up there because I
Hmm.
think people really still think Adrian Brody is like the chosen one. Like, I think
Yeah.
that he was the one that was promised in The Pianist, and he never really,
Hmm.
really delivered on that. It's like when Renee Zellweger won a second Oscar for playing
Hmm.
Judy Garland. And it's like you came out of nowhere, just swept this Oscar season, and now you're just gonna disappear into like a Bridget Jones hole
Disappear
again. Like,
again.
where have you been and where are you going?
Yeah.
I think Adrian Brody is gonna get a little bit of that, and I think it'll be cute because he is in Succession a bit when he and Kieran at the end with two
True.
women are holding their awards,
I forgot he was in
and
Succession.
Jeremy
Yeah.
Strong is crying in the corner,
Yeah.
not knowing how to just take a chill pill. So I'm
I'm
predicting.
glad. I'm
I'm being
glad
very
we.
boring. I'm predicting Brody.
No, it's not boring. I'm glad that we disagree at least for the first time so far. So we have you have Adrian winning, I have Timmy winning, and then we have Dark Horse. Maybe those two split the vote, and Coleman rises.
Hey, I would not say no to that. Outstanding performance by a female actor in a leading role.
Hmm.
Pamela Anderson as Shelley in The Last Showgirl. Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba in Wicked. Carla Sofia Gascon as Amelia slash Manitas, I think it was pronounced, in Amelia Perez. Mikey Madison as Annie in Honora, and Demi Moore as
Hmm.
Elizabeth in The Substance. Now, I think, are in agreement that the current frontrunner for the Oscar is Demi Moore.
I don't know. Actually, I think that changed at the BAFTAs when Mikey Madison won because true, Denis had been sweeping up until then, but she'd only been sweeping non-industry awards. They were Critics' Choice and Golden Globes, which are not the same voting body at all. So the first time the industry got to weigh in, they chose Mikey Madison. And also, all the other guilds, not voting on acting, but voting on the movie, gave it to Honora, DGA, PGA, WGA. So everyone loves Honora. They love every part of Honora. I think Mikey Madison, if Denis wins at SAG, Mikey Madison could still maybe win at the Oscars, but then I would say, yeah, Demi's a lock for the Oscar if she wins that. But I think Mikey Madison could win.
I I'm tracking that you're thinking there, and I agree. I do
Hmm.
think it's closer to split than it was. Again, I could say like 2 weeks or a month ago. Mikey
Hmm.
Madison was the front runner for months. Then Demi Moore. We talked about this before the Golden
Hmm.
Globes that day actually, and we said
Hmm.
we were actually considering the Demi Moore narrative,
Hmm.
and then the narrative really like came to the fore, and she is. she's got the story on her side, you know, like the beautiful young ingenue type actress who no one was ever going to take seriously, and then she shaved her head, and then they didn't want anything to do with her, and now she's back, and she's good in the movie that I find good, but
Mhm,
we said going into that Golden Globes, if she gives a good speech, it's over for everyone else. And she gave a good speech
mhm,
that people liked,
mhm,
and now Honora is having this resurgence because Substance is not really a serious contender for Best Picture, and
mhm.
Emilia Perez is fallen by the wayside, and so Honora's risen to the top, and so you're predicting Mikey?
Well, I want to say another thing here. The same way I just talked about Coleman, I think if people vote with their heart and aren't thinking about like, oh, who actually has the most chance to win, and again, it's questionable how many people vote like that. I really don't know. It's an open question. People voting with their heart, I think favors Cynthia here. I wanted to say, like I was going to say earlier, I think it was Issa Rae who said at some award show, like, are they like, oh, who are you rooting for tonight? She's like, I'm rooting for everyone black. And I think that's real, not just for voting for black actors, but like whatever your cause celeb or favorite thing is. Like I think this year a lot of people are just voting for anything Wicked. You know what I mean? Like everyone who agrees that Wicked is the movie of the year, if they see Wicked on their ballot, they're going to vote for Wicked. Or like I pointed this out to you the other day that I thought it was really striking that like at Chelsea Handler's monologue, she like did jokes about everyone and then she just like heaped praise on Cynthia Erivo and just said like how honored she was to be in her presence with that much talent. You know what I mean? And it's
Mhm.
like I think she's a talent that talented people are in awe of. You know what I mean?
I think that's
So
fair. Yeah, I think that's right.
like I don't know, like the kind of celebrity that celebrities are like nervous to meet because not because of her celebrity, but because of her talent. And
Right.
I think talent respects talent. So like I think Cynthia Erivo is maybe a dark horse here. So it's really hard for me to predict. And again, I don't think people vote this strategically, but I don't see Wicked going 0 for 5 because it got so much love. It got Jonathan Bailey in for supporting actor. It got a stunt
Which
nomination.
you
Like,
predicted. Well, I want to give you a shout out for that. You predicted
yes,
Jonathan Bailey.
I
Yeah.
predicted it when no one had him in like their top 10 even. I was like, watch out for Jonathan Bailey. I had another prediction that was totally wrong, but at least I got that one
Well,
right.
no, but
But I
that
was,
falls in line with your TV and film split, though, because he's also on that show Bridgerton, which,
yes,
by the way,
exactly.
most shows averaged for
Yeah.
ensemble about 15 actors nominated.
Yes.
Bridgerton had about 42 or 47, I think. So
But
I
also
don't know.
he's triple nominated this weekend
Whew, good for him.
for the cast of Wicked, the cast of Bridgerton, and Solo, which is
And no
crazy.
Oscar nominations to speak of yet.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give away my next prediction here too, maybe, but like I don't think he's gonna go home empty-handed after 3 nominations.
Hmm.
But anyway, so where was I going with this? Oh, so yeah, again, I don't think people think this strategically, but Wicked has to win somewhere, I think. So is it gonna win a surprise Cynthia best female actor? Is it gonna be a surprise best supporting for Ariana, or is it gonna be ensemble? It could be all of the above because they just love Wicked so much. But so if I'm predicting, I don't think I'm predicting Cynthia here. I think I'm predicting Mikey because I think Honora's not also not going to go home empty-handed. So I think I'm going to say Mikey for actress, but tipping my hand ensemble to Wicked.
Okay, I like, and also in much in the Coleman Domingo sense of the two quote
Mhm,
unquote leads could kind of split the vote and it could go to the third place runner up.
mhm,
That's kind of where Cynthia is right now, I think, and I could see that
mhm,
split too. She would be my backup prediction,
mhm,
not a reflection on the performances given, but to I think Demi Moore will take it for
mhm,
one very simple reason, and
mhm.
that's that we know voting bodies love a beautiful person to deglam, and oh my God, no one has looked worse than
Sure.
Demi Moore throughout the substance. And then she shows up on a
Mhm,
red carpet looking like $1 million, and they go, "Oh my God, how old are you now?
mhm.
Oh, this is incredible!" Like people just want to tell her she's good and talented and beautiful.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess I guess I agree. I do think it's worth noting that Pamela Anderson has a similar. she doesn't have the ugly thing, but she has a similar narrative, like career
Hmm.
as to me. So anyone who thinks about their favorite actors that they grew up on, who are like kind of having a resurgence and kind of do, Pamela could also split that vote with Denis in a weird way, leaving a lane for Mikey or Cynthia. Um, but anyway, so I think I'm predicting Mikey here and then Wicked Ensemble, just a jump to Ensemble. But I could see the flip happening too. I could see a Nora for Ensemble, Cynthia for actress. No, I think in that sense I'd say I'm trying to find where Wicked wins. I think the most likely place for Wicked to win is Ariana, like I already said. So maybe it could be Denis in actress and Nora for ensemble, and the one Wicked love spot is Ariana. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead though. Let's do ensemble.
And I do also want to say that real quickly before we wrap this up here. I don't want us to appear that we're participating in like trans erasure of any kind by not mentioning Carla Sofia
Oh,
Gascon at all,
true.
but she is not winning an award
No.
anymore. If she ever, I wish the performance were better. I wish that the film were less divisive. I thought it was bold and interesting and not my favorite of the year at all. If it was nominated for 2 Oscars, that'd be fine.
Mhm.
But instead it's like tied for the most ever, right? Or one of the,
Yeah.
anyway,
I really
yeah.
didn't want to watch it, and I wasn't. I was like, "Ah, I'll finally make myself watch it until everything really blew up, and now I don't even feel bad about saying that I'm not going to watch it. I don't want to watch it.
You should talk to Charlotte because she tried multiple times and like couldn't even piecemeal it to the end, like gave up. Yeah, and I can't blame her. But so yeah, I won't name all the actors included. Some are obviously um like surprise inclusions and some are like weird omissions that you'll get when you do
Mhm,
like the entire ensemble for a film. Like sometimes they just like forget to include people and it's weird.
mhm,
Like like anyone not white in Argo, I feel like was a thing that was a controversy a
mhm,
while back.
mhm,
Sorry, a cat jumped onto the desk here. He's saying it's almost bedtime. I know, buddy, I know. We're almost done here. But the nominated outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture list is A Complete Unknown, Anora, Conclave, Amelia Perez, and Wicked.
mhm.
I think, despite the brilliant cast, we can say Conclave isn't winning. I
People
think
are trying to make that happen at the last minute, though. I'm hearing a lot of the pundits saying, should Conclave win here and make the race more interesting here at the end for Best Picture at the Oscars? And I'm like, No, I don't think so.
the thing about Conclave is it's kind of only legends. The four
Right.
people on the poster are Ray Fiennes, John Lithgow, Isabella Rossellini, and Stanley Tucci. It's only people
Yeah.
that we all love and or adore.
Yeah.
Plus John Lithgow, who's apparently going to be playing Dumbledore, even though he's like a 79-year-old American. Whatever.
Hmm.
That's that's fine. Uh, Not to say I don't like John Lithgow. He's good. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's just this thing I read. Isn't that the weirdest thing to do? The last time we casted Dumbledore, he was too old of an actor and they had to recast him. Now they're doing 7 seasons of a show about Harry
Hmm.
Potter, and they're giving the headmaster of the wizarding school in England
Hmm.
to John Lithgow, the American.
Huh.
When like
I don't follow the Harry
I know
Potter
you don't, but
history.
like it's just like think about that. It's just a weird
Hmm.
choice.
Yeah.
Um, okay, and so Amelia Perez, I think, has already become just the Zoe Saldana show. I don't
Yeah.
think it's winning this either.
No.
So that leaves A Complete Unknown,
Hmm.
a Nora, and
Hmm.
Wicked.
All three of those kind of maxed out their nominations if you think about it. Complete Unknown got three actors nominated. Wicked got three. Anora could have maybe in a world got three, but it was really strong that it got two, and it's
Hmm.
really called Anora. But actually, you pointed this out the other day. It's actually a really good ensemble piece. And so if you're voting thinking about ensemble, it might actually deserve to win because Wicked is more like a two-hander. What makes it strong? Like I forget who it was, but some critics group created an award just to give it to Ariana and Cynthia together and called it like best collaboration in a movie or
Oh,
something.
nice.
So it's
Yeah.
just like to both of them, just like to give them something.
So,
Um, so anyway, that said, like yeah, do you give best ensemble to Wicked? I mean, if you go by how many noms it got, it's clearly the most popular and beloved, and maybe that's as simple as it is, and it's going to win. But if you actually think about it, you might be like, oh well, the better ensemble piece is a Nora. But if you, how many people do you think of it as just like our version of best film? That's what they're thinking. I think this group of actors would give it to Wicked, but
Look into, because I think we can kind of do this. I think we've like watched enough award shows. We have the power to do this. Look
mhm,
into your crystal ball
uh-huh,
and to the final award given of the night.
mhm,
And here, for these three, I'll just quickly hit this. Monica Barbaro, Norbert Leo Butz, kind of a Broadway legend, right? Timothy
yeah,
Chalamet,
from
Elle
Wicked.
Fanning, Dan Fogler, Will Harrison, Eriko Hatsune, Boyd Holbrook, Johnny Cash, my favorite performance in the movie, Scoot McNairy,
Uh-huh,
Woody Guthrie, uh, Big Bill Morganfield, and Edward Norton.
mhm,
I don't see that group of people standing together on a stage, letting one of them, probably Edward Norton, if we're being honest, speak.
mhm, mhm,
Um, Actually, now that I say probably Edward Norton, I could see Edward Norton doing that, standing up in front of a bunch
yeah,
of people talking about like the craft of acting. But then you've got Honora, which
uh-huh,
would be nearly Parasite level jubilation of like, wow, most people are no name actors technically in the industry. Like most people came out of
uh-huh,
nowhere, no one had heard of them or seen them before, and now here they are in this triumphant moment. And actors they join the producers on stage for Best Picture, but like most members of this cast will not be celebrated in any other way for this performance or maybe many to come because they're all like character actors that
yeah,
again you haven't heard of and probably can't name.
mhm,
And so I can see that group jumping around like lunatics while trying to
mhm,
decide like who gets to speak and giving it to the guy who played the most frazzled guy trying to get the boy back to the plane.
right.
Like I can't even think of the character names right now.
Yeah, I,
But
I I can see that happening, but probably at the Oscars because they're gonna be up there a bunch of times at the Oscars. Well, and like Sean Baker is actually like eligible for the win in like four of the categories because he's like the editor,
yes,
and the writer and the director and the producer.
he's like the Coen
Um,
brothers rolled into one. He does it
yeah,
all.
so he's gonna give his one of his speeches to somebody else. So I think you're right to see that happening, and it will happen. I don't think it's at SAG. I think not only do the actors love Wicked as a movie, it was really popular and a great movie. Um, it's not just Ariana and Cynthia. Everyone loves Michelle Yeoh and Jeff Goldblum. To be fair, I'll be honest, as much as I love the movie, they weren't amazing in this, but kind of who cares in the end? It's like, it's Jeff Goldblum. It's Michelle Yeoh. Like, we love
It's our
them.
it's our favorite quote from an Oscar pundit person years ago. They weren't, shall we say, good,
Good. Yeah, they weren't,
but
shall we say, good, but they were there, and they were Jeff Goldblum, and they were Michelle Yeoh. So like
so yeah.
that adds
Here's
to
my
the star
yeah.
power, and also they nominated Jonathan Bailey. It's like I see the Wicked cast getting up there and having this big Wicked moment because it's going to be. I think people are going to know it's their only big moment because they're not going to have one at the Oscars. Sad to say, and I should also say here, I was. I maybe still am a little bit. I was gung ho. Wicked had a real Best Picture chance all the way up until Honora swept PGA and DGA and WGA because I thought Wicked was going to be the consensus pick, but I feel like enough people decided like we do need a happier consensus pick, but we can't give it to the female-led musical that's all pink and dancing. So it went to Honora.
So okay, I'm glad I gave you that space because I agree. I think Wicked will win this award for the reason of in my crystal ball, I see slack-jawed misty-eyed Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo side by side, not knowing who gets to speak, letting each other speak, insisting that they do, both like hand to the chest, with Jeff Goldblum kind of just like grinning, puttering around behind them. And then like Peter Dinklage on stage if he's there, and like half of the people saying, "Oh, he's in that movie," and like
I
then
see
like
them. I
yeah,
see them choosing Jeff Goldblum to speak for them, but then Jeff being so deferential that he says, "Cynthia, you got to say something," because this is assuming Ariana already had a moment to speak. So Jeff will be the one nominated, Jeff or Michelle, and then Jeff will be like, Cynthia, you got to say something, and then she'll get like her standing O, right?
Can I, because I work in podcasting, I never really have a video. Can I do my Jeff Goldblum impression of
Oh
how
yeah,
he gets up to the microphone and does
yes,
this?
please.
And he has to touch his face. Um, wow, geez, guys, I'm not doing the voice really, but like, so, uh, where, where are, I can't, oh, wow, geez, uh, hold, hold, Cynthia, oh, Ariana, then they come
Yeah,
over. Like, he doesn't actually say anything.
yeah,
I think that's right though. I think that's accurate. But
yeah,
then maybe Michelle Yao just steps up and kind of steals the spotlight, even though again not like the best performance in the movie. But
yeah,
yeah, I could see Jeff Goldblum being the chosen one to hand it over to the women
yeah,
because what a bad look that would be for him if he decided
yeah.
he's the representative of Wicked.
It makes me so happy to think about this moment, actually, especially knowing that their Best Picture dreams are a little bit dead at the Oscars. I think it will happen because, like, I think another thing that bolsters my confidence that it can happen is John Chu's surprise win at the Critics' Choice. It's like there is this undercurrent of love out there for it, and I think at every moment so far when people have like wanted to forget about it or count it out, it rears its head again. It's like, no, it was a 10-time Academy Award nominated picture that all the crafts and all the guilds recognized their people in their field did a great job with their part of the movie. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
actors recognized the talent, the scenic people recognize the scenic design and the costume. Like, I don't see why. Like, it's been so frustrating this whole season that people haven't taken it seriously enough, in my opinion. So yeah, we agree then, right? On best ensemble goes to Wicked.
We do agree.
Predicting at least our predictions. Yeah,
I also think that if it were to win Best Picture at the Oscars, though, that would be the worst thing that could happen to it because I think there would be a huge backlash for the next one. And when it loses this year, maybe people next year will look at the sequel,
mm,
Wicked for Good, and just be like, we were a little too harsh. Because there's a huge contingent in the world that's anti-musical, and it baffles
yeah,
both of us, it boggles my mind that you could buy into a
yeah.
world where people are shooting guns into and out of a bank at each other every single day, but no one breaks out into song.
Right.
Like, sure, there's
That's
no
a good
like
way to.
musical accompaniment, but I sing every day of my life. So,
Right. Yeah.
and
I want to hear more about you singing every day of your life. But no, and I think especially with actors, it's really important to point out that like a lot of us have worked in theater and musical theater, and like I have a master's degree in musical theater, and like, am I the typical SAG voter? Maybe not, maybe though. Like, so and a lot of us have relationships with the IP. Yeah, I just think it'll go to Wicked. Um, I was gonna say one other thing. No, I forgot. Oh, you were talking about, there was a pundit that I watched literally today who did agree with you, Devin, who said something like, he's hearing chatter of actual Oscar voters saying like, if John Chu nails for good, like watch out. Like they want to, uh, the energy's out there to award him. Maybe he even finally gets his Best Director nom next year. I also want to say, I've been saying this whole time that I think Cynthia becomes an EGOT next year, and maybe not for acting, but for writing. Barbara Streisand did this too, by the way. And that, like, I think Barbara's probably the last example of like a freak of nature talent, as much as Cynthia Erivo is a freak of nature talent. But Barbara has an Oscar for writing a song. I think Cynthia becomes an EGOT for writing, co-writing her new song for her own character with Stephen Schwartz in Wicked for Good. Maybe she comes back and is able to get double nominated for the acting too, because she's going to act through that song, through No Good Deed, As Long as You're Mine, romantic duet with Jonathan Bailey, and then for Good, like Waterworks with Ariana. It could happen, but I think it happens next year.
okay, yeah, I like that. I'm
Mhm.
so let's before we wrap this up, or I said that already. We're about to wrap this up, but let's just recap real quickly.
Yes.
In these five major categories, male in a supporting role, we are both predicting Kieran,
Hmm.
I believe.
Hmm.
Female actor in a supporting role, we were both predicting Ariane. No, did
Yep.
you?
We picked
We
Ariana.
did. Oh
Yep.
yeah, we were both predicting
Mhm.
Ariana. Male actor in a leading role, I'm going basic with Brody. You said Chalamet 1, Domingo 2?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're split on that between Chalamet and Brody
Female actor in leading role. I said
with Blair.
Moore, you said Madison,
Yes.
with
Hmm.
both of us having a little bit of our hearts out there for Cynthia Erivo and even
Hmm.
Pam Anderson, kind of.
Yeah,
And
she
then
was great.
yeah, she really, really surprised me in that film. Not to, that I
Hmm.
had low expectations, but like I
Hmm.
just thought, oh, it's going to be exactly what I think, and it was a pretty good movie. And Dave
Hmm.
Bautista's really good in it too. But
Hmm.
then outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture. Wow, we were 4 out of 5 in agreement here. No, 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 sorry, 3 out of 5 in agreement. We both agree
Yeah.
though the big one's going to Wicked.
Yeah. Oh, I love this that we did our own little prediction video. I
Yeah,
love that
and
we
oh
also
darn, I wasn't
thought it was.
recording. I'm
Are you
kidding.
serious? Oh
I'm
my God.
kidding.
Yeah, okay. I also love that we predicted it would take about 45 minutes and it took like an hour 20.
Speaking of, yes, I am overdue to go help put my daughter to sleep.
I
So
know.
I'm gonna go do that. Um, let us know if you like the show, people. Give us a thumbs up, like it, rate, review, subscribe. No, that's a podcast. Leave comments on YouTube. Derek is gonna post parts of this, I think, on TikTok.
I'm gonna
Um,
try, yeah. And
and
we should also say we just want to be clear, these are not what we voted for necessarily. They are our predictions,
correct, yes, yeah, yeah. We did
but
not
they're informed
divulge what we voted
predictions
for
because we know
explicitly.
SAG actors.
Yes, yes, we both know at least one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let us know if you like this, because we'll probably keep doing it to some extent on our own anyway. But it's always nice to be nice, and it's good to be
Yeah.
liked. So let us know if you like us. If you don't, why are you still watching? You weirdo loser! Get out of here. That's no, no haters here. Um, thanks for
Happy
suggesting this,
awards
Derek.
watching.
Yes,
Yes.
enjoy the
Thanks
SAG
for
Awards
jumping on.
and the Oscars and everything, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, check out Storybook Suites and Film Literate podcast.
Yes. At Storybook Suites on Insta, and you're at Film Literate, right?
Film Literate podcast on Instagram. Those are yeah. Look us up there.
Okay.
Check us out, and yeah, take care.
Thanks, guys.